Everything looks better with a dram in your hand.
Welcome back to the Cask 88 Lock-in. I hope waiting 2 weeks instead of one wasn't too arduous for you. This week we're diving into the world of Tennessee whiskey, and we have a fine musical number to raise those spirits. But first, I'd like to remind you folks that, as well as talking your ears off about whiskey, we at Cask 88 have some other strings to our bow. Now recently, our heads have been turned by something a little bit different. What if you were to make whiskey from pure cane sugar instead of malted barley or other grains? Well, then legally you'd have a rum, not a whiskey, but it's a fairly petty distinction really. Aside from the starting point, rum and whiskey are actually sharing quite a lot in common. So to prove that we're people of the world, we've tracked down some absolutely heavenly rums from South America and put them into stylishly dressed bottles. But I work for Cask 88, so my biases are obvious and on the surface. And this is why my first interview is with an expert on Guyanese rum, and you'll get to see both his and my reactions to the rums we bottled. Now as to honestly incredible. A small meteorite just fell on my street. Honestly, life is never dull in this lockdown, eh? Now, let's wait a few more hours for the sun to begin setting over Guyana so I can get my first interview. On with the show. So as the sun has almost set on Edinburgh, Scotland, it's also begun setting on Georgetown, Guyana. Oblate spheroid planets are a bit weird that way. A tenuous thematic link to this next interview maybe, but the other link I have is far stronger. Now, Cask 88 is a whiskey company, but we're taking our first baby steps with rum. And who better to advise us on this than rum connoisseur and organizer of Guyana's first ever rum festival, Yonnick David. Yonnick, welcome.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me.
So what kind of overlap do you reckon there is between whiskey and rum? How similar are these two spirits?
Well, obviously, we know they come from two different products. One comes from sugar, one comes from a whole host of different types of wheats and grains. So we know their differences, but their similarities, I think their similarities are very close in terms of that aging process. So there's a crossover in the taste as well for the rums produced here in Guyana. So I think their similarities are close in terms of the process of aging them, in terms of how they're consumed and how they're tasted and how they're paired with foods and cigars and so forth. So I think they share that bond. So although their origins are different, the process to the end product is very close to the same.
A little context for people who maybe don't know Guyana so well. The Demerara River that runs through Georgetown. Now, Demerara sugar, associated with being a really high-grade sugar, and the Demerara River has kind of fed these incredible sugar plantations which have really helped the rum over time. Is it the quality of the sugar that is really key to the quality of the rum in Guyana?
I think it is the quality of the sugar that has influenced our rum here in Guyana. And then it is the quality of the soil that has influenced the quality of the sugar cane, which has then influenced, obviously, the quality of the sugar. And then in the long run, it's also influenced the quality of our rum.
The rum that we're going to be tasting in a moment, I've noticed is spelled with an H, as opposed to the spelling that we may be more used to, which is just R-U-M. So can you explain the difference between a rum with an H and a rum without?
All right, so the rum, the R-U-M rum, it's obviously rum, but it does not differentiate. So it's pretty much covers all different types of rum. And those rums generally come from the byproduct of the sugar production, which is the molasses. It's a dark, thick substance that they use to then make the rum from. Now the rum with the H, R-H-U-M, that rum comes directly from the juice or the sap of the sugar cane. So they ferment that juice into the process of making the rum. So RHUM, it's rum agricole, and it derives from the French. That type of rum was usually made in the French Caribbean islands.
So what is it that makes Guyanese rum distinct among them?
Guyanese rum is special because it's made with a special type of soul. The Guyanese people, I think, are the basis of the Guyanese rum. Mm-hmm. We put our heart into it. And then obviously, scientifically, okay, we have great sugarcane coming from amazing soil. If anyone ever sees a picture or a video of the Demerara River, they'll notice it has a very dark beige, almost brown color. Even out on the Atlantic Ocean, where the Atlantic meets Guyana, the water there, it has a heavy brown color instead of the clear blue, clear green that most people are used to of the Caribbean. And it's this way because of the heavy soil component that makes up the land and the soil type of the entire country. So we have very, very rich, fertile soil. So we have excellent quality sugar. And because of that, we have excellent quality molasses. And because of that, we have excellent quality rum.
Perfect. I think it's almost time to taste this rum that we have here now. I think we've built up to it. So I'm thinking we might start with the one distilled in 1999.
This is the exact definition of liquid gold. So we're a country, we also produce lots of gold. See, I have some gold in here. Most Guyanese, you'll always see them with some gold on their neck. Or on their finger. And we also, so we have gold and we say our rum is liquid gold. And this already defines liquid gold just by looking at it.
It has the color that pleases. And on the nose, ooh.
Yeah, it's very sweet. It's very, very sweet. You can tell already that this is sugarcane. This is rum from sugarcane. If it was the rum from the molasses, there will be I like to use the word heavy. There's a heaviness about it. There's a lightness about the rum from the sugarcane.
Yeah, well, we'll see on the palate. So, your health, Slanjava.
Cheers, Slanjava.
Oh wow, that's pretty full on. Oh wow.
The aftertaste is the best.
I don't need words. This doesn't need words. Oh, this is beyond words. This is lovely.
This is amazing.
It's very fruity.
I don't know if you know the fruit soursop. The aftertaste, I taste so much soursop in this, and I know there's no soursop, but you can taste. It's so fruity. It takes you. Wow, this is really good. Extremely light on the tongue. Extremely smooth.
But not holding back on flavor at all.
You guys have an amazing product here. I'm sold. This is amazing. Right. So what I like to do is after a meal, after dinner, if I go out for dinner, I'll have an aged rum, maybe a shot or two neat of aged rum. And it helps with, just like a glass of red wine after a steak, it just helps with the digestion of the food. It adds an additional flavor to the experience of the dinner event. So
that was the first one, and I'll put my hands here, and maybe the bottle can appear between my hands. So that was our new Cask 88 offering, the Rum Agricole, 20 years by the time it gets to you. And the other one it comes from the same place, very similar treatment. I think it's an ex-bourbon barrel as well, but it's had an extra year. Now, in that year, it's lost 5 percentage points of alcohol. So I think there's been some heavier maturation on this one. Yeah, so this is just over 60% ABV, this one, and distilled in 1998.
So this one definitely has, I can smell the wood, and there's this woodiness.
It's way softer as well, right?
Mm-hmm. It hits you. It doesn't hit as hard as the previous one. This one has a calming, mellow. I think this is the perfect time with the sun going down.
It's incredible, like what a difference a year has made. But I'm going to guess, of course, every cask is unique. Every cask has its own little microclimate. So, who's to say that another 21-year-old or 20-year-old as it is now wouldn't be, again, completely different from this. Anyhow, so yes. So rum number 2, again, your health, Slange.
The last one, it was sweet, it was fruity, especially in the aftertaste. This one, as soon as it hit your tongue, it's sweet. The aftertaste is what brings the maturity. I can taste the maturity in the aftertaste.
Yeah, like the.
So let's say it's youthful to start and then mature down to the end.
Yeah.
For what I prefer in my current state after a long day of work,
Sure.
This is it.
So I think that's it. Just different times. Beginning of the evening, more kind of vibrant rum, and then for toning things down, for relaxing with this one. And there's a real dignity to this one, I guess. It's crazy tasty.
I can taste the cask or scorched. You can taste that burn, that burnt wood. This is amazing, man.
Yeah, so heavy cask firing is something you'll do before maturing a rum as well, sort of really powerful fire.
So what I can tell you is you have two amazing products. They're definitely going to be appreciated by rum drinkers. And I would ask whiskey drinkers to give rum a chance. And if you want to start with these, give them a shot. They're definitely Guyanese. Excellent taste. Just the right amount of sweetness.
I was going to say, as a really seasoned whiskey drinker myself, there's no barrier to entry here. There's no obstacle saying, well, it's good, but it's not a whiskey. It's incredible for its very own set of characteristics, and it's very enjoyable. And you can tell that these things have spent a long time developing these flavors. This isn't a flash in the pan. You had to wait to get these flavors developing in the rum.
But these rums are amazing. I've actually had quite a few friends asking or waiting for my review on them.
Oh, right. Cool.
So I can't wait to tell them how it was. And we'll definitely be buying some bottles down here.
Well, that's a ringing endorsement there. So, yeah, these should be in the Cask 88 and the Whiskey Foundation stores pretty soon. This one, I'll make it appear in my hands as well. So this is the Guyana rum, but this one is the 21-year-old, and the more dignified, less lively, more relaxed entry, but equally incredible in its own way. Both of them cask strength, both of them powerful without being aggressive.
So I guess on my side, to close, I will encourage your viewers, wherever in the world they are, to either come down to Guyana next year in February for our rum festival. It's going to be somewhere around the 20th of February, maybe a little before that. And if they can't make Guyana for Rum Festival, they can come down to New York. We're definitely going to have our Rum Festival in New York in September.
So February in Guyana, September in New York. That's a Valentine's present for some people out there, no doubt. And of course, we'll be bringing some of these bottles, it's for international sale, but we'll be bringing them to Scotland and then shipping them to wherever you are, should you be curious.
Yeah, thanks for having me try these with you, man. They were definitely amazing. It was a delightful experience.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining me. Thank you for giving your expert opinion. And I really hope that that Guyana keeps making incredible rums like this, because there's really something very special in these glasses.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, Sam.
Perfect. Well, it's been a great pleasure. Yonnick, David, thank you so much. And talk to you again soon, and hopefully be in Guyana soon as well. Now, music is often used as an analogy to understand the complexities of whiskey a little better. But I wonder if whiskey can return the favour. I'd like to welcome now Finn Anderson, a singer, songwriter and composer whose music has many facets. Sometimes bold and full of richly overlapping layers, other times simpler, with a clear and refreshing traditional sound. Yet other times it can be smoky with layers of toasted oak. All right, okay, so that third one doesn't work quite so well. Perhaps it's better if he tells you about it himself. Finn Anderson, welcome. Afternoon.
Hey, it's a total pleasure to be here.
When it comes to your music, particularly, when I was comparing it to whiskey, I was saying there was a real richness of sound. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable sort of forcing you into a certain genre. So how would you describe your own music?
I love to explore lots of different musical styles. I've got a lot of influence from folk music and kind of storytelling traditions, but I also work a lot in theatre and grew up around that. So I guess storytelling is a really key part of all the work that I make and the music that I create. With
some of the elements that you incorporate into your music, you say that sort of folk traditional has quite a strong influence on you, and I find that whiskey often has quite a strong influence on that. So how often do you find whiskey being mentioned in the music that you work with?
I guess for me, gathering together to share songs with people is all about the kind of sort of ritual of that, and the idea of a celebration and of cozying in to share an experience, and having a whiskey is such a traditional Scottish way of cheersing to people's health and of gathering and of sharing something, even passing it around the fire or wherever you're sitting, and that's something that often finds its way into my songs. So.
And for those folks who just can't wait until the lockdown is over to hear some of your music, are you doing anything on the internet?
The day before the lockdown kind of formally started in the UK, I started doing a weekly live stream concert from my living room. So every Sunday at 6 p.m. UK time, I'm gathering kind of here in my living room, and there's been a really wonderful regular group of people, and it's growing every week. And basically just sharing songs, some new songs that I've worked on that week, and also songs from my album Until the Light. I am there on Facebook Live every week.
I think some of us will be there.
The song that I'm playing is called Strip the Willow, actually, and it's a sort of homage to that dance, that sort of using the idea of the Strip the Willow dance as an analogy for love and romance, I guess.
Fantastic. So I think that's going to uplift a few spirits. While we're waiting for the gatherings to resume, we can have this song to tide us over. So Finn Anderson, thank you so much. I'll let you take it away.
Cool. Pleasure.
This is Strip the Willow. There's a place in my life for you if you want it. Do you want it? There is space in my bed for two if you want it. Do you want it? Is anybody else staring at the same old sun, feeling halfway there, but knowing that they've just begun? If a life is a strip the willow, the line is long, up and down, back and forth, and every time I reach the middle, it's you I see. So dance with me. Line is long, up and down, back and forth, and every time I reach the middle, it's you I see. So dance with me. Won't you dance with me? Won't you dance? Won't you dance with me? Won't you dance with me? Thank you, folks. Take care, stay safe.
It's quite simple. If America's whiskey industry was foundering, then the whole world would feel it. American distillers get one use of their barrels, and then that's it, by law. Once they've performed their vital role, then these whiskey-infused barrels voyage out across the world to be excellent maturation vessels used by winemakers and distillers everywhere. But what of the American whiskey itself? Very popular and firmly beloved at home, but still something of a mystery to many Scotch drinkers. Well, I'm joined now by brand ambassador to one of the oldest hands in the American whiskey industry, Matt Neal of Uncle Nearest Distillers. Matt, welcome.
Nice to be here.
So let's talk a little about the actual spirit itself. What are some of the main similarities and differences between, well, Scottish and American whiskies, and then some of the particular differences with Uncle Nearest spirit?
Absolutely. Well, they're both wet and alcoholic. There are more differences than similarities when it comes to legislation and how they're actually made. I think the biggest difference probably will be the grain used.
Yeah.
In the States, they're very used to mixtures of different grains in mash bills, and the predominant one, especially in Uncle Nearest, is corn. So instead of using malted barley, we use corn, and straight away there's a difference. Corn is unbelievably fatty. It's a fatty, sweet, sort of buttery spirit. And so you get a huge mouthfeel, and we tend to use column stills because the extra height actually strips some of these fatty acids and lipids away, giving you a cleaner spirit. It definitely makes bourbon in generally sweeter. The next one would be 100% is the barrels. So we use new oak barrels and have to. In fact, as soon as it comes out of the first new oak barrel, that's considered our aging process over.
Yeah.
No matter when, if it's finished, no matter what, it has to be that new oak barrel.
So aging does not add any time on to the maturation?
No, so basically, as soon as it comes out of the first barrel, that's the number you can put on the bottle. That new oak barrel adds so much flavor so quickly, and a very specific flavor as well. It's very vanilla, bit spicy when it's in there a bit longer, but it's very, very forward, a lot of flavor, lots of woods, lots of sort of baking spice, and that's heavily, heavily on the palate. And then Tennessee's hot as the center of the sun as well. So you've got the climate, which is, it's pretty extreme. The liquid gets sucked deep into that new oak and spat back out, and you're getting even more flavor from it that way. So everything to do with bourbon is about extracting that flavor pretty quickly. At Uncle Nearest, we try and proof down. So what you end up with is a spirit that's pretty much reaching its peak around about anywhere between 6 and 15 years old. So it's quick. And with Scotch is, with the used barrels and even the new barrels, it's layering that flavor over decades.
Yeah.
So what bourbon has at the front palate and all that bursting flavor and that hits you in the face and that you can taste right up to the back of your teeth, Scotch has in subtlety and length and layering. And I think that's equated into the different flavors from the different countries.
So it sounds like maybe one of the keys of getting into bourbon and Tennessee whiskey drinking is don't expect it to fill exactly the same role as Scotch. And the Lincoln County process is pretty central to that. So this is supposedly something actually developed by Nathan Uncle Nearest himself. Yeah. And even as it goes, he may have taught the tricks to a young Jack Daniels as well.
Yes.
So yeah. I imagine this is still very central to the Uncle Nearest brand.
The story is massively central to our brand, and it's been verified as we go along. Our CEO, Fawn Weaver, basically whiskey wouldn't exist without the story. I heard this story whilst reading a newspaper. She's a writer and she was looking for something to write about. So she then went to Tennessee to research this story, started gathering all the facts, found out that it was a slave called Nearest Green, or Uncle Nearest, who taught Jack Daniel how to distill when he was a boy and had run away from home and was living on this farm. As she found this story out, she met the Green family and fell in love with this story, and it was suggested to her that if she wanted to honor Uncle Nearest, that she would make a whiskey bearing his name. And as she did her research, she found out the friendship that developed between Jack Daniel and Uncle Nearest was just that. It was a friendship. So when Jack Daniel got enough money and bought his first distillery, he hired Uncle Nearest as a free man after the Emancipation Proclamation to be his first head of whiskey, and they developed Jack Daniel together. So to have such a wonderful untold story, or unpublicized story at the center of your brand, it's very synonymous with what we do.
And it's wonderful that now Uncle Nearest does have a brand to represent that story and his achievement. So I imagine that being in the UK and a few thousand miles away from the distillery, we don't get the full range of Uncle Nearest whiskies here, but what can we get our hands on?
At the moment, available over here is our key product, which is the 1856, which is a non-chill filtered 8 to 13-year-old 50% or 100 proof Tennessee whiskey. So it's our key product. It's just full of flavor, full of toffee, full of vanilla, baking spice, very, very big, very warming, absolutely amazing. And then we have a single barrel, which is always over 11 years old. And that's exactly what it says. It's well-aged, it's harder work, it's slower. It makes you work for the flavor that you're drinking. It's not something you go, oh, that was nice. It's something you sit down and go, wow, okay. I'm gonna let this roll over my palate and go through. And that is available in the country through the British Bourbon Society and should be entering the country hopefully in the next sort of 8 to 9 months. So we should have the whole range over here.
Fingers crossed. It sounds completely delightful. Yeah, and while lockdown is still on, are there ways of interacting with Uncle Nearest during the lockdown?
I'm always happy to answer questions or anything via Instagram or Facebook. We have a Facebook page for Uncle Nearest, which is Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey. and also they're pretty active on Instagram as well at Uncle Nearest. I'm also doing a Whiskey Wednesday, which is we're inviting brand ambassadors, sort of bartenders and distillers onto a show very much like this, but done live.
Awesome. Yeah, links will be down below. So I have to say, Matt Neal, it's been a real delight to talk about bourbon / Tennessee / both whiskey with you today.
Thank you.
Definitely be looking out for bottles of Uncle Nearest. And yeah, thank you so much. Quite the episode there. We've learned it's worth keeping an eye on what's going on the other side of the Atlantic. An ever-expanding variety of experimental bourbon, Tennessee, malt and grain whiskies in North America, while Central America is getting on with making outstanding rums, products of both history and geography. The Cask 88 single cask rum agricoles from Guyana and the one from Nicaragua will be going on sale on our website and at online indie whiskey store whiskyfoundation.com. for those who are seeking to replicate my tasting in their own homes. Most important lesson though, meteorites crashing to Earth are never a good sign, but if you stay alert and resourceful, you'll be just fine. See you in 2 weeks, everyone. Look at that!